Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He's Josh Check. And what a weekend we just had with the HoopSeen Tip Off, ushering in a brand new season at Suwanee Sports Academy and HoopSeen, as we go all over the country this year. And Josh, we want to dive in today, talk about the HoopSeen Tip Off, talk about some of our top performers, talk about some of the storylines, talk about some seniors, which we had quite a few seniors. We had a number of teams that went undefeated. We didn't play tournament style. It was more matchup game. We want to see teams go against certain teams to kind of get things going. So we want to spend some time talking about the HoopSeen Tip Off. And now that here we are, Monday morning, Monday afternoon, take a little deep breath. We can kind of go back, organize our thoughts, and we can kind of get into it. So Josh, let's do a little vibe check here, my friend. First of all, how you doing? And second of all, how was the vibe at the HoopSeen Tip Off?
So first, the vibe was great. I had a really great time this weekend. It felt like the first weekend where it felt like, all right, travel season is officially back, because I was running around like a madman all weekend. I'm still collecting my thoughts. I feel like Saturday was one of those days where you're just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to run around and see as much as I can, take in as much as I can, make as many notes as I can, try and do as much as I can. It just overwhelmed me. It was just what that first weekend always overwhelms. And now, personally, I slept in. I've had my coffee. I'm starting to kind of return to myself. My head's kind of clearing up a bit, and I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. Like, I know people, to give a point of view from our side of things, we have so many teams that come in, and we have a really good team. Like, I'm actually really, really excited about our team that we have to help cover programs and to really get more players out there. I'm really excited about the group that we've got put together this year. Like, really, really excited about it. But it's a fire hose of information, especially when the season gets started. You're trying to remember, your head associates a player with a high school team. You're trying to make the pivot to the travel team. And then maybe the kid played for a different team last year. So it's just a matter of kind of getting and gathering information at a really large scale and then trying to organize it. So I think that is, from our point of view, it's always interesting to kind of get back in the swing of things on travel ball. So, but I feel like by the end of Saturday, I felt like we kind of caught our rhythm as an entire squad. So I was pretty excited about that. So to kind of set the table, we're going to talk about some of the top performers and some of the top teams that we saw, but also to kind of give you an idea, as we get into our season, Mondays is going to be, we're going to do this. We're going to recap events. Okay. Josh and I will, or even JB and maybe Garrett or whoever our staff is going to be. We're going to recap the event. We're also going to have our top performers. And then throughout the course of the week, basically Monday through Thursday, we're going to recap the entire week. So our event coverage just doesn't stop on Sunday night when the tournament's over or the event's over. We extend that out, and we really are busy on social. So again, if you're watching this on Twitter, we appreciate that. If you are seeing this on YouTube, go follow us on Twitter. If you're not following us on YouTube, go subscribe over there. Or of course, our Instagram page. We've got all these different channels that we want to get this information out to help promote and to really help report, is what I should say, the players that we see over the weekend. So just kind of want to set the table for what we've got coming up. But I think when we look at this event, Josh, in our conversations offline, that there seemed to be a trio of players particularly. And that's what I think the tip-off's all about. In years past, we've seen, Scoot Henderson and the Thompson twins. Last year was Ace Bailey. Dayron Sharp was the year before, Matthew Cleveland. I'm probably forgetting other guys, but it is a star-driven type of event where we always want to make sure we've got like a McDonald's All-American type of guy that's in there. And this year it felt like Jaron Stevenson out of Team United in North Carolina, a top 15 level guy out of the class of 2024, seemed to be that guy, the main, the main actor in the play this week. And what did Jaron Stevenson do to really kind of warrant that type of inclusion into this really special group of players?
To put it succinctly, he did everything. Everything. He is so impressive. He is that is just a different kind of player. You watch him, you see him, like the way he looks physically, the way he plays on the court, the way he moves, you're just like, that is different. That is what a top 15 level guy looks like. That is what a McDonald's All-American looks like. That is all the praise in the world. That's what that kind of guy looks like. He is, 6'10", and he's not slight. He's muscular, but he plays, he plays hard with a motor around the basket, but then he can also step out, hit threes, make plays off the bounce. He can do everything for this team. I think it's just his overall versatility and his overall energy is what kind of separated him from the pack. You know that you're doing something well when Jesse Bird turns to you and goes, that guy's a pro. So he got the Bird's approval. He got my approval. I think he got the approval of everyone in there. Jaron Stevenson was just phenomenal this weekend.
I keep you can't see it on screen, but I keep a really active living board, depth chart and rankings board right behind our screen here. And I'm looking at the 2024 class. And man, I really like we haven't seen this many really good big guys in a while. We've got Flory Badunga, we've got Ace Bailey, we've got Asa Newell, Trenton Flowers, if you want to include him in this category, Jaron Stevenson, John Bulb, Derek Queen, Carter Bryant. I mean, it's really fun to kind of look at this list to see like the type of talented big guys that we've got. And Jaron Stevenson, to your point, I mean, I watched a lot of video over the weekend on Baller TV, our live stream partner, and it is really easy to go, oh, that's the guy, right? Like you just pull up the stream, you don't have a roster, you go, oh, that's the dude. And we have him at number 13 overall, which may be a little too low, to be quite frank with you, because of his long-term projection. And we've seen this before with other guys where we've seen how they use this as kind of a springboard into the season ahead. Fast forward to like May 1st. Okay, let's play make-believe for a second, talking about Jaron Stevenson. What kind of storylines do we think could be possible for him when he gets out there and plays those 2 live period events on the EYBL?
I mean, it's hard for me to consider. I cannot talk about him as a stock riser because his stock is already sky high, right? Sure. He's got North Carolina offers. Your stock doesn't get higher than having a North Carolina offer. But I think we could just kind of continue to see him emerge as a pro and a future pro. I think that's going to be the buzz around him. Is going to be that's the next level for a guy like him. Like right now, he's already a top 15 guy. He's already pretty much a shoe-in for McDonald's All-American unless something crazy happens and all of that. So I think right now it's going to be like, all right, how does he fit in at the pro level? And I think that's going to be the conversation around Jaron Stevenson. And man, I'm really looking forward to seeing him at some Nike events and some of the elite camps in the summertime.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, I mean, again, that's why I love the tip-off. We'd love to see that where, it's an opportunity to really kind of just go to bare bones and really watch the player to see and forecast. And I think that's kind of been the idea of this platform over the years, is to really kind of start these stories, start these narratives. And Jaron Stevenson, again, I'm looking at this list and we've talked about this before where this 2024 national class is really good. We've got Trey Johnson, number 1, Dylan Harper, number 2, and Ian Jackson, number 3. And we've talked about it before in other pods where I feel like this list is going to be really, really fluid moving forward. I'm interested to see, Jaron Stevenson, again, NBA body, prototype, 6'10". Like, is he the type of guy that really, even though, to your point, it's hard to be a stock riser when you're that high, but how much higher can he go? And is he a guy that can in this upper echelon now?
He is certainly a guy that can, he can, right, if you want to talk about raising his stock, he can raise his stock to being a top 5-ish player. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is that good. And I think with a guy like him and a team like Team United, I think it's important for other teams to watch them because if you think, a lot of teams think, I'm a D1 kid. I got D1 kids on my team. If you if you're one of those guys, watch a team like Team United because those are going to be the guys that you have to go up against if you're a D1 player at the D1 level because it's really stark to see a guy like Jaron Stevenson be like, geez, man, I'm gonna have to play that guy down the line.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's a good pivot to our next guy, and that's Elias Williams. That was with South Georgia Elite. To see him go up against a guy like Jaron Stevenson, to see him in that same sort of category. Here he was a runner-up in the state of Georgia, the class of 2025 at Charlton County, now playing with an HSA club, South Georgia Elite, like a high-level player. And we saw him. You said he grabbed 28 rebounds in the state championship game. Was that the number?
Yeah, it was it was crazy. His stat line was 28 rebounds, 10 points, and 6 blocks against Wilkinson County, and against Green Forest, who has 2 7-footers. 2 7-footers. One of them going to Mississippi State, one of them going to Georgia State. So that is not slight competition by any means. He had 16 rebounds and led Charlton County to a win in that game.
Yeah. And so, we're starting to stack up. We've talked about this. Stacking chapters is something that's a term that you're going to probably hear a lot this year on HoopSeen, right? Like, I like that. Is Elias Williams, this was a major stack chapter weekend coming off of a major state tournament run, right? Like, to me, those are really important things that you've got to look at. I know, listen, he's going to be a blue chip football guy. He's going to, Nick Saban probably has his name in his phone right now already. And like we get it, Kirby Smart does. Like, it's going to be a highly contested football recruiting battle, which you love to see, right? And we've seen other guys like that come through and play. with us on the basketball side of things. Trayvon Walker, right? Number 2 overall pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Was it number 2? I don't keep up with the NFL draft enough, but nevertheless, like we saw him come up through our platform and be really good with Upson Lee and have great success. Elias is no different, where he came in there and really kind of set the tone. And I do love Tip Off too, because it's one of those chances where guys from South Georgia, where we know maybe have a little bit of buzz, but for I think the city of Atlanta, which we know has a huge microphone up against it, to see a South Georgia guy come to Atlanta and kill it, I think really does go a long way. And I feel like Elias did that. We talked about that in another like mini pod that we put out already. But I mean, let's take away football. Let's play what if, okay? Like if he's just a basketball guy, I mean, where does he stack in the national, point of view?
That's a tough call, because he's in the 2025 class, and I think that 2025 class is so loaded at the top.
It is loaded. You're right. It is.
I can tell you this from a Georgia perspective. Coming into March, he was kind of a we'll see kind of guy, right? He was like, we saw last season that he had the potential, right? We saw him play with South Georgia, lead at Best of the South and other events. So we were like, okay, he was on our radar. We had him in, around 50 just because we weren't sure with that class yet. Now, after this weekend, after seeing him go up against Jaron Stevenson, I think I put him in the top 10 or the top, at the least the top 15, because he is that good of a player, man. He played up with South Georgia.
In the state.
The state, yes, state, to clarify. He played up with South Georgia Elite in the 17U division. He played against Jaron Stevenson. He played against Cam Scott. He played against all of these Team United nationally ranked 2024 guys, and he held his own. I mean, he more than held his own. He was a star. I think everybody that watched that game was like, "Oh my God, this guy is out there hooping." I know he's a football guy, but during that game, Jannard asked me, he said, "Are we sure this guy should be a football guy?" I was like, "Look, man, I'm not going to say no to a guy making money on Sundays, but if he wants to hoop, he's going to be a high level hooper too. With a guy like him, you do whatever you want. You're going to be good at it."
I had to pull up your text from the weekend. This came yesterday morning, Sunday mid afternoon. Elias Williams is given that work, star-making performance, and I was like, okay, yeah, like that. That was a great text to get, because it was like, yeah, for sure. I mean, I immediately went on and clicked on the stream.
And here's the thing: a lot of the times with South Georgia guys, see the guys, but I want to see how good he is. I want to see him go up against the top teams from Georgia. I want to see him go up against the top teams from wherever. And his run in the state championship game saw him go up against Green Forest, who we know for having great big men over the years, for decades at this point, or at least a decade. So that was a notch in his belt, right? You saw him go up against Guy Chole. You saw him go up against DK Manuel. He succeeded. And then now you see him go up against Jaron Stevenson and all these guys from Team United. You're like, all right, this guy, he's already proved enough. He has done it.
Yeah, those are such important things to take note of when it comes to evaluations, right? Like, how do you string really good things together and being consistent, right? Like, consistency now to me is a fundamental. You've got to be consistent, because you don't know when someone's going to watch, especially how hard it is now for high school guys to penetrate into that college recruiting scene. Like listen, you're 4-1 against the odds now, with the portal being as deep as it is. So even, let's just take Elias out of it, because he's probably gonna be a football guy. But like, if you're a player, you've got to be able to string these good pieces together and really have consistent, good body of work. So, and I think we see that too, as we kind of move down the line here, where consistency is not a problem for a guy like Eli Ellis, right, from Team Loaded. Like, we know every single game that guy's going to come with a flamethrower in his hand. He's going to be, burning up those nets. Your thoughts on him over the weekend as well?
I mean, he's just tremendous. I think for me, my first real introduction to Eli Ellis was last year's Bob Gibbons Tournament of Champions. He was a star. He was an absolute star. He plays with functional. I'm going to coin this term, functional flair, right? He goes out there, he plays with flash, he plays with swag, but it's not just fluff. There's substance to it. He leads to wins. He's a guy that makes his team better. He's a guy that takes game-winning shots. He's not afraid of the big moment. We got to see that at Bob Gibbons last year. We got to see that at OTE this year when he played with the Thompson twins and all of them. He's not afraid of the grand stage, the spotlight, playing with guys around him. And then this weekend, in their 2 games, he was a star, man. He was hitting shots, all kinds of shots, tough shots. He led them to a game where they hit 23 pointers. He was making great passes. He he had, rings of people around court 5 or whatever court he was on. And he was putting on a show, and the people who lined up really got treated to something special with Eli Ellis on the court.
Functional flair. I had to write it down. I like that.
T-shirt idea.
It's not a bad one. Not a bad one at all. I like it. Josh, there was also a theme, I think, over the weekend. That was, we talked about the portal, right? Like we talk about how many guys that are in there, but as the portal happens, this trickle effect happens, and rosters are in constant flux, where teams used to only be looking for like maybe one guy in the spring. Now they're looking for like 5, 6, and they're looking at a lot of different places where unsigned seniors, it's a tricky road for an unsigned senior because it can be as cold as like the polar ice caps. And then all of a sudden it's just active, and they want you to make a decision like in a split second. So it's this weird, wild ride. And I get the frustration, I think, for a lot of seniors that are going through it. But I do think that this spring will be filled with a lot of unsigned seniors and a lot of schools where, listen, your entry point to college basketball now, don't get so caught up on like the level of entry point. Like now it doesn't matter. Like just find a place where you can go and play and get.
You're going to get seen.
You're going to go get seen because it almost feels like the recruiting process you hope in theory would end when you're a senior in high school. But shit, it may continue, now forever, sadly.
Yeah.
And so if you're an unsigned senior, like we had a lot of them, we're going to talk about them. But listen, we got junior colleges coming in, non-division ones coming in. Like I saw KJ Doucette, who went down to Fort Valley State, who was unbelievable and, had a great career there, 2 years playing for our friend Montez Robinson and the staff down there. They're great staff down there. I mean, bro, I got calls from schools all like out here on the West Coast asking about him. Right.
Yeah.
And so your entry point into college, don't get so caught up on the level. And I think that was I'm saying all these things to kind of set the stage for these unsigned seniors that we have that we're going to talk about. But there's opportunity for you, and don't discount that. If you have an offer from a school, you need to really don't long play that. Like think about that seriously. So anyways, that's my little speech. But when we were kind of prepping for the show, you just kept mentioning name after name after name of some unsigned seniors. But let's kind of dive into that. And there was one was there one that stood out more than the others, or was there like a nice combination of guys?
There was a nice combination of guys, but I think there was one guy that stood out because he was new to a lot of us. He's from Florida. He was playing with Team Huncho. His name's Isaac Taveras. He's a super athletic wing. And throughout the weekend, I think he kind of established himself as a guy that D1 programs that we found out that D1 programs are they have their eyes on. You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me of last year's Team Huncho team. You remember Bryce Blaine, the guy that we were really high on? He was an unsigned senior. And going into April and going into Bob Gibbons, he was a guy that really, really shined. And he ended up going to the D1 level as an unsigned senior. So Isaac Taveras is another one of those guys who I think his athleticism, he plays so smooth. He glides in the open court. He had a block where I feel like he hit his head on the rim. He's so athletic. He's a guy that with, as the spring progresses and as more buzz starts to build around his name, he could be like that Bryce Blaine kind of guy. About Bob Gibbons, where we're like, oh, this guy's a D1 guy and he's going to end up going to a D1 program. He is that good.
Yeah, I had to look it up. Bryce Blaine went to James Madison. A ton of playing time, but was I think an important pickup for them and their style of play. And I actually really like that a lot. That's not a bad call. I watched some of that film of Tavares. I thought it was really, really good. Out of North Carolina, Jacob Tiller made a lot of noise with his shooting ability for Team Swish, and that's a guy that even our Justin Byler. We're gonna have 2 parts for this HoopSeen Tip Off recap. We're gonna talk a lot with JB about Tiller, but real quick for you, what did you like about him? You'll probably echo what JB's going to say about him too.
Yeah, well, his shooting is probably like 4th, 5th, 6th on the list. I think his edge and his toughness and his athleticism are the top 3. This guy's sneaky athletic, and he plays so damn hard throughout the entire game. I don't know how he does it. Like I can't do anything that hard for an entire game. I can't even write that hard. My fingers hurt. Like he just plays with such effort. Like it's just really impressive. And JB pointed him out to me last year at Best of the South. I can remember it clearly. JB was like, "You should look out for this guy. He's super athletic." And him and I were watching him together. And I was like, "It's like I remember in that game, he hurt his finger. Like I think he had to go get it like taped up because he hurt it on a dunk or something like that. He came back into the game after going to the trainer and then dunked again. It looked like he hurt his hand again.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
You know, he just kept getting hurt and then kept coming back in. I was like, dude, this guy's tough. Like by the time he finishes this game, he's gonna look like Frankenstein with stitches all over and bandages everywhere. Like he just doesn't stop. I just love how hard he plays and how tough he is.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's keep it moving. Who else, unsigned senior, did you like?
London Williams with Team Smash is a guy that I've in conversations with like JUCO coaches or whatever, any kind of coach. A lot of coaches have been asking me about forwards from Georgia to look out for. And I always point them to London Williams because he's a big physical forward. He's a guy that's going to grab you a ton of rebounds, and he can step out and hit the three a little bit. He's a versatile guy, and I think there is a place for him at the next level. He's just got to find the right fit. He's got to find the right school. And he had a showing Smash weekend. Team United is there, and he had a really good weekend with Team Smash.
I like it. Let's keep it moving. A couple other guys in the Peach State, some unsigned seniors. Give me two other guys maybe that you liked.
Unsigned seniors for the Peach State. I like Marvin McGee. He was another Team Huncho guy. He plays with Alexander, and he's a big wing that can hit shots and all that stuff. He's coming off of a state championship, so he's a guy to look out for. He's really, really good. Kim Payne, Micah Hoover. We're playing with Hype Hawks. Kim Payne's a guy that was at Alexander. He went to post grad for a year, and he's a guy that has all the tools you could ever look for. Micah Hoover is coming off a state championship with Kings Ridge. He was fantastic. He's kind of like a do everything for guy. He's athletic. He plays super hard. He's a guy that's just going to get stuff done for you. And he was integral in Kings Ridge's run to a state championship.
I like it. I think we're going to try to do this often. I think when we do our in-event recaps, we want to make sure we include a lot of unsigned seniors that are in there. I do. I think the spring is going to be the unsigned senior spring. I really do. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are out there, and we've seen a lot. Listen, there's so many schools that are looking for players at every single level, and I get
texts about it all the time. Like there are schools looking, and they're just. But I think when the live periods hit, you're going to see that kind of like materialize more. But right now, like if you're an unsigned senior, there are guys looking for unsigned seniors. There are people working behind the scenes, and they're certainly hitting us up about it.
Listen, college coaches and travel guys, click that link right there, hoopseen.com/events. Our live period events, Atlanta Jam, we're going to be at the legendary Suwanee Sports Academy, and then we'll be back in Louisville for the Grassroots Showcase. So that's going to be our live periods. But listen, if you're a non-Division I coach, come join us at the Bama Jam. Come join us at the Carolina Jam. I mean, heck, even next week, the Georgia Cup, I think we'll have some teams with some unsigned seniors on there that are probably worth taking a look at as well for you as we kind of get going into the springtime. So, Josh, let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about some stock risers and guys that's why we play the HoopSeen Tip Off. We want to make sure that we articulate those guys that are really kind of starting their story. You have a couple guys that fall in this category too?
The guy this weekend, in as far as stock rising, was probably Marcus Gillespie. He played the Champions Chance / Team Tatum. He's over at Clark Central. Yes. And this is not hyperbole. I have not heard opposing coaches come up to me and rave about a guy after playing them like they did with Marcus Gillespie. Also raved about him. Norcross Heat raved about him. Team Huncho raved about him. People kept. It was like who's this guy? Oh my God, have you seen this guy? This guy's so good. There's that kind of deal. And it was like, all right, that kind of buzz made me realize like this guy's on the verge of having a monster spring. And usually I like to temper those kind of expectations, but when you get that kind of buzz around a guy, you get other people reaffirming what you already think. That makes me believe that he's on the verge of having a big time spring.
And listen,
this guy's a super scorer.
They played the Georgia Cup last weekend. This is why I always say this. If you can get in Georgia Cup 1 or 2, you have to go do that because it gives us a chance to really key in, and it kind of sets the stage for the next week. And I cannot express that enough on how important our cup stage is to get in there and get that weekend where you can get that kind of action. Because I'm with you, man. I watched Marcus. I went back and watched all the film on him. Dude, you're spot on. And like the last guy from Clark Central that I felt this good about was Cameron Johnson, who went on to have an unbelievable career at College of Charleston. We talked about last week in our Georgia Cup review. And I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I really like that name a lot going into the springtime. I think he's about to really take a major.
He had 38 points against the Atlanta All-Stars, and the All-Stars are known for their defense, right? They're known for being a fundamentally defensively sound team, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do anything with Marcus Gillespie. The All-Stars ended up winning that game in overtime, but afterwards, both their coaches came up to me and they were like, "We couldn't do anything with that guy. Like, he was hitting threes. He's got a quick first step. He can get by his man. He can get to the basket. He scores on all levels. This is the guy to look out for in the 2025 class in Georgia right now."
I like it. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I'm sad that we buried it so deep in the show, honestly. So we may need to break that out a little bit more on its own. Any other stock risers? Any other guys, story starters that kind of fall in this category for you, Josh?
Yeah, let's pivot to aforementioned All-Stars. I think Owen Ritger is a guy that we need to look out for. He's a 6'7", 6'8", long wing, long forward. He fits in with the guys that we saw on last year's All-Star 17U squad. He fits in with the kind of Dylan Faulkner, the kind of Brigham Rogers role, a skilled wing forward kind of guy and he's in the class of 2025. So he is still filling out his frame. He's still growing a little bit. He's still adding to his bag, so to say. So I think by the time we look up this time next year, by the time we look up in July, by the time we look up after next high school season, he's going to be a guy that really rises in Georgia's 2025 class.
I like it. Make sure you stay logged on HoopSeen.com all week long. We're going to have tons of updates from the tip-off, all different categories from all different states. We'll have a lot of
I got one more stock riser for you, JY. He's a guy that really he emerged late in the weekend from that's having a fantastic weekend. He was stacking stories throughout the weekend. That's Levante Ivory. He plays with Team Huncho. He was with Thompson High School, I believe. And he's a guy that we've had our eye on for a while. I remember last year he was playing with TSF on the EYBL circuit. And when I got to go see him, I was like, wow, this guy's really good. And then this year he's even better. He's, athletic point guard, really quick with the ball, makes good decisions, good scorer. I think he's a guy to look out for in Georgia's 2024 class. I think he's going to have D1s all over him at some point.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good inclusion. Again, we got a lot of guys, and so again, if you want to check our HoopSeen search, again,
this is gonna be written about throughout the week. There was a lot of guys. This is a stock riser event. Yeah,
we could do a 7-hour show and still not get through everybody. So just kind of be patient with us as we kind of roll through it.
Yeah,
I did want to acknowledge the teams that went undefeated at the tip-off. Again, the tip-off is more of a matchup style. We don't run a tournament because again, it's just we want to make sure we get good matchups in. I think that's important. Where you don't lose and then you go into a loser's bracket, you lose and you're done. We really want to kind of beef up those matchups for this type of event. So I want to kind of run through the teams that went undefeated. And Josh, if there's any teams that are on there that you want to kind of pause on, by all means, just kind of let me know. We can kind of stop there. But I feel like we talked a lot about our 17Us, but our 17Us undefeated teams were Team United, Team Loaded, Gold Elite out of down in Hinesville, Championship City, USA.
That's a team to look out for. They've got Hinesville's known for having tough guys and
my favorite city, no question. My favorite city in Georgia when it comes to absolute tough guys. Gold Elite is a program, and the team switched red with 4-0 as well in our 17-0 division.
Team Smash Red. Right?
What's that?
Team Smash Red.
What did I say?
I thought you said Team Swish. Maybe you said Team Smash. But
I did. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm red. I can't read my own handwriting.
Hey, I can't. After this weekend, I'm struggling to read right now too. So we're good.
Well, listen, I got new glasses, believe it or not. And I was feeling really good. Oh man, I can see, and apparently I can't read. Team Huncho went 4-0 in our 16U division. Really excited.
That's a team to look out for. Let it pause. That is a team to look out for. They've got dudes. Mekhi Ragland. He reminds me of DJ Burns from NC State. He's got a really big frame, but he's nimble. He's not like a plodding big guy that can't move. He's nimble, got great feet. And this is another guy that people kept raving about this week, and he's got great feet.
Tell me the name again.
His name's Mekhi Ragland. He just transferred in from New Jersey. He plays at Berkmar High School. So I got to see him a little bit this high school season. And now he's with Huncho, and he really emerged as a name to know from that 16U division this weekend. Big guy, like 6'8" to 6'10". It's somewhere in that range. Big frame, really nimble, though. He's got great feet. He's got great touch around the basket. He can extend that touch out to the three-point line, and he's a guy that will make really great passes out of the post, too. He's a guy that really impressed a lot of people this weekend. And then
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes.
On that team as a guy that I really loved with Kings Ridge, Jaden Cole. He had a great end to the high school season, and he's carried that over into the travel season. He's a great shooter. He's a great decision maker. He does little things that help you win. I think his shooting is going to be what's talked about the most, but like when you pay attention, he's a guy that'll take charges. He's a guy that'll get his hands in and create jump ball situations. He's a guy that just creates extra possessions for you. In that regard, I think he's going to have a big time spring.
I love that. I love that. A really good weekend for Reach Higher Kings. They went undefeated in their 16U division and the 15U division. So went 8-0 between those two teams. Tremendous weekend for those guys. They play really hard, very fundamental. They will slow you down.
You know what a great thing that this weekend is great for is situations like this where you might not know, like, all right, I don't know what this team necessarily has, but then you see them go undefeated. You watch their games a little bit, and then you're like, okay, now this team, you are officially on my notes for the next weekend or the weekend after. Now that Reach Higher Kings went undefeated, they went undefeated in 2 age groups. It's like we got to see this team more throughout the travel season.
Well, you're totally right, and then also like these types of weekends really play into seeding for something like Bob Gibbons. Honestly, like you have 4-0 tip off. We're going to give you a really good seed in the Bob Gibbons. I mean, I painstakingly go through the Gibbons every year with Daniel Paccioni and really kind of set the matchups up. And so you go 4-0 at the tip off, we got you. Yeah, we'll make sure we get you really set up in a really good situation for that as well. So, Team United also went undefeated in 15U division, and our 14U division was really good. Like we have some really fun teams in that group. Again, I can't read my own handwriting, so forgive me. I'm pretty sure this is Team Huncho. Went 4-0. SBC went 4-0, and Yes Sir Elite went 4-0 as well in our 14U division.
Not Yes Sir, Yes Sir.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Again, can't read my own writing. Thought that was an R. So a really fun weekend for these teams. Josh, this was way longer of a show than I anticipated, and I kind of love it.
Yeah, I do too. And guess what? This show might be long, but we have notes here. We have notes here. We have notes here. There are notes everywhere. So if you're like, oh, well, we had a great weekend, we haven't, gotten talked about yet or anything like that, it's probably coming because we're just getting started.
Here.
I have notes coming out of my eyeballs. My desk is cluttered right now. So
a lot to unpack.
There's a lot more coming throughout the week.
If you're watching this on Monday here on Twitter, again, we're going to be closing down our registration for Georgia Cup 2 coming up really, really quickly. It's a great warm-up weekend, again, and before we get started, as we kind of wrap up the month of March. The Jam events are coming up. The Atlanta Jam is a live period event, the Bama Jam and the Carolina Jam. If you're trying to decide on where to go, listen, our Bama Jam is going to be loaded. It always is. Our Carolina Jam is something that I'm excited about. You're going to be in Alabama with Garrett Tucker. I'm going to be up in North Carolina.
Yeah. Forget that. Go to Bama. I'm going to be in Bama. Go to Bama.
Come up to Carolina. Either way, go to a jam, whether it's Bama, Carolina, or Atlanta. We've got a really good situation set up for you. And again, our live period is going to be ending in the month of April up in Louisville at the Grassroots Showcase. We've got over 60 courts under one roof. It is Costco basketball to the extreme. So if you haven't done that yet,
one of my favorite events of the year. Not even being a company man. I think even if I didn't work for HoopSeen, I would say that is one of my favorite events of the year.
So much basketball to see and so much to talk about, no doubt about it. So, Josh, this was fun. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're watching this on Twitter, if you've got this far, 32 minutes in, thank you. Go ahead and hit that retweet button. We definitely appreciate it. But until then, we'll see you next time. For Josh Tech, I'm Justin Young. Thanks for watching.